Chapter 682, Seeking Food. Katlia controlled herself without looking at the world Jayaman. She said in a deep and slow voice, "Northeast from the Gargas archipelago, there's a safe sea route that allows one to enter those dangerous waters." She began her description with the deep abyss which separated the seas, the sun chariot which couldn't be viewed directly, the night which required sleeping, the terrifying ravings that filled the entire sea, and the shadow of the giant king's court which stood on the opposite mountain peak in the dream world. During this process, she didn't mention Jayaman's sparrow at all, deliberately avoiding any mention of him. As for the abnormalities that happened en route, she described them simply, such as the remnant aura of Earth Mother which caused hair to grow rapidly. Towards the end, she placed her focus on the ruin with a sleeping corpse and the adventurers' sailboat which had the words written in blood, Fountain of Unaging. This might mean that the Fountain of Unaging is in that ruin, and the corpse that produced such loud breathing is the keeper. Katlia mentioned the common theories on the future, but it didn't mean that it was hers. Fountain of Unaging, one of the 6 major treasures at sea. Alger was tempted by what he heard, as he considered the possibility of exploring those ruins after reaching Sequence 5. Audrey finished listening attentively as she shook her head slightly. "I don't believe that the decisive meaning behind those words in blood mean that the Fountain of Unaging is in those ruins." After a second's pause, she attempted to analyze the deceased's state of mind. A person who's about to die after being attacked by monsters wouldn't point out matters regarding the treasure. If he wishes to warn companions or relatives who come looking for him, then he should have written that it's dangerous here or speak about the source of the danger. If he plans to tell passing ships that the Fountain of Unaging is there, then he lacks the motivation to do so for a living creature at death's doorstep. Unless a conspiracy is hidden in this matter, the conspiracy of enticing people to enter the ruin to seek out the Fountain of Unaging might be how he can be rescued. Yes, if I were in his shoes, I wouldn't think of desperately telling others that there's treasure here. What's in it for me? Emlyn echoed. Only hatred, bone-deep hatred, will make me write something like that on the brink of death. Otherwise, I'd rather tell others how I should be buried or what kind of burial items I want. He tusked and shook his head. Klein nodded indiscernibly. Controlling the world, he said hoarsely, the Fountain of Unaging is a scam. He used absolutely certain words, without any additional words, that would signify other possibilities. The Fountain of Unaging is a scam. Katlia looked at the world, before retracting her gaze in thought. It seemed to corroborate with certain theories and guesses she had. Alger frowned, not that he didn't agree with the world's judgment, or that he believed that Miss Justice's and Mr. Moon's explanations were devoid of reason. Instead, he realized that he had completely failed to consider this possibility. To him, this was a mistake he shouldn't have committed. After all these years, I'm still being temporarily blinded by immense profit. He fell silent for a few seconds and sighed. After exchanging what everyone had seen and heard recently, everyone began to teach little son ancient Hermes, and they learned some mysticism from each other. Time quickly passed as the fool Klein surveyed the area after everyone came to a stop. "Let's end it here for today." "By your will." Audrey stood up immediately and curtsied with her illusory dress. The rest of the members said the same almost at the same time. As he watched the blurry figures vanish before his eyes, Klein wasn't in a rush to leave. He conjured a goatskin and fountain pen and wrote down the divination statement. "The hope for my advancement to Sequence 4. Putting down the fountain pen, Klein held the goatskin and leaned back. As he closed his eyes, he entered a cogitation state and began silently reciting the divination statement. After chanting it 7 times, he quickly fell asleep and entered the dream world. The gray, blurry sky cracked open as he saw a towering mountain tear through the clouds. At the mountaintop, there was a collapsed palace whose walls were covered with weeds and moss as they showed obvious holes. Inside the palace's hall was a huge throne carved out of stone. It was adorned with dull gemstones and gold. It was mostly mottled and damaged. It looked as though it wasn't prepared for a human, as countless translucent maggots were bunched densely together. They squirmed slowly as they kept growing. Around the throne was a raving that seemed to penetrate the long rivers of time and history. It was illusory, ethereal, and constantly echoing. Hornicis, Phlegria, Hornicis, Phlegria, Hornicis, Phlegria. The moment the ravings entered his ear, Klein jolted awake before he frowned. It really is the main peak of the Hornicis mountain range. Furthermore, I can see and hear it more clearly than before. This made him recall Queen Mystic Bernadette's prophetic words. Your fate lies on the main peak of the Hornicis mountain range. Is that my fate? It really makes me want to be rebellious and not go. Sigh, I can't deal with absolutes, it depends. Klein sighed and conjured the 5 bounty notices provided by Emlyn White. Combining the information he had, he used the methods of divination to find the locations of the primordial moon believers. Finally, due to his lack of information, he could only confirm 2 points. Galli's Kevin, Windsor Bearing, and Argus are all in Backland. Dandy and Lara are at Enmet Harbor and Pritz Harbor respectively. This is as good as nothing. Klein shook his head and returned to the real world. Recalling how he had already agreed to provide Little Sun with the notary potion formula within 3 days, he wore his coat and a top hat, and he prepared to head out to find a target. When he opened the door and came to the stairwell, he saw Anderson Hood walking up, twirling his deer-hunting cap with his hand while humming a folk song. This fellow is really good at recovering from setbacks. He was just taught a lesson by a demigod in the morning and was forced to apologize and agree to a request, but I don't see any sign of trauma from him anymore. It's no wonder he became a Sequence 5 powerhouse. Just this state of mind alone makes it difficult for him to lose control. Klein looked at him, nodding slightly as a greeting. Good afternoon, Jayaman, Anderson chuckled as he waved his hand. I've received the bounty and characteristic money. I'll pay you the rest now. As he spoke, he took out stacks of cash of different thickness from different pockets. It happened pretty smoothly, I see, Klein commented without much emotions involved. Anderson immediately laughed. That's right, it happened far smoother than I imagined. Those fellows who should have rocks for brains were surprisingly friendly, polite, and efficient. I even suspect whether I've become a blessed of Lady Luck. There's no such deity. Klein ruthlessly shattered his fantasies. Why so serious? It's life. Relax a little, relax a little. Anderson handed over the remaining 1,200 pounds. Actually, I'm very clear about what happened. That gentleman doesn't want me to waste my time, so he secretly exhorted those people. Klein glanced at the cash, pressed down on it, and asked in passing, have you confirmed which pirates gave you the problem? He was asking about the prey that resulted in the manipulator's involvement. There's no way for confirmation, Anderson said with a bitter smile. Do you think I didn't confirm it ahead of time? Although I appear nonchalant in front of you, I will investigate the prey's background and situation ahead of time to avoid provoking someone I can't afford to. Who knows? Sigh, I can only blame it on my bad luck. This fellow is more careful than I thought. That's right, his previous sequence was called Conspirer. Klein thought in enlightenment before asking indifferently, who deserves death the most in this area? Anderson was taken aback before he chuckled. Does our craziest adventurer plan on beginning his hunting activities? However, you have to consider it well. I do not wish for you to be my partner when completing the demigod's mission. Don't worry, we're different. I'm a seer. I have all kinds of means to hide my tracks. I will not allow someone to come knocking at my door. Besides, that's a demigod of the spectator pathway. He's not good at divination or prophecies. Klein maintained his cold attitude that was unique to Jayaman and said, you don't have to bother. Anderson immediately gave a thumbs up. Your craziness is worthy of praise. He thought for a moment and added, the person who deserves death the most is Mulsona from the Lone's new party. He's one of the pirate's best friends. He has in his control some kind of plant that's similar to cannabis, which is highly addictive. This helps him control many people in the Tosgarter government and the police department. He's one of the most powerful mob bosses over here. He has committed many crimes, killed plenty of people, and basically did it with the help of pirates. On the surface, there's no apparent problem. He isn't a beyonder, but the difficulty in killing him is how troublesome it is. Yes, troublesome. He has 3 to 5 beyonders from different pirate crews providing him with protection. On the rooftops, outside the building, beneath the windows, everyone there belongs to him. To finish him off, the only way is to forcefully storm in and kill a large number of people. I have the means to do it, but it's too troublesome. There's also a certain level of danger. You'll become a wanted criminal after that, so I didn't deal with him and only dealt with his safe at home. Safe, to talk about banditry in such a fresh way? Yes, I previously heard that Tosgarter's main industries are its plantation economy and pirates, black market trading. It also has flourishing bar, brothel, and gambling industries. I never expected that it includes new age drugs. Mulsona is an ordinary person and not a beyonder. Perfect, creeping hunger happens to lack food. Klein nodded and indicated for Anderson to go deeper into detail. Evening in the Oak Tree Bar. A boxing match was about to unfold in the boxing ring. Many alcoholics surrounded it with mugs in hand. They were like sharks who had caught the scent of blood. As they placed their bets, they loudly yelled words such as "kill him." This was a business of the head of the Lone's new party, Mulsona. The unique thing about the boxing matches held here was that death was permitted. Mulsona greatly enjoyed matches that resembled ancient wrestling competitions. He often came to watch a few matches. At that moment, he was seated on the second story, overlooking the ring. Around him were several bodyguards. They were watching every direction, and among them were no lack of beyonders sent from the pirates he worked with, as well as experienced adventurers he hired with large sums of money. These people either had their backs or sides facing Mulsona as they surrounded him, and they prevented anyone from approaching him. Revolvers, rifles, and hunting rifles were all aimed outside to leave the masses intimidated. After confirming the situation, Klein pressed down on his top hat, entered the bar, and saw Mulsona sucking on a cigar. This mob boss had a very discernible face. Be it his brandy nose or thin brows, they were all very unique. Klein retracted his gaze and first went to the bar to get a cup of local malt beer worth 4 pence. Then, he made his way to the railing beneath the second floor. Although he wasn't directly under Mulsona, as it was heavily guarded, he was already not very far from him. "I'm within 5 meters." Klein silently muttered to himself, raised his cup of beer, and looked at the boxing ring.